Please welcome David A. Specht to the podcast. And this episode is brought to you by RadioGuestList.com, the #1 free radio guest, podcast, and talk show guest expert interview booking service on the internet. This episode is brought to you by PodcastGuest.com, connecting podcasters with great guests. Podcasters. Find relevant experts and other podcasters to be guests on your podcast. Experts, guests, and more. Get booked on great podcasts to expand your reach and audience. PodcastGuest.com connects podcasters with experts, authors, and other podcasters to be guests on their podcasts. Disclaimer. All information provided by Alex Muir is of general nature and is spoken from Alex Muir's and his guests' personal experiences and personal opinions on the topics related to fitness, health, and education only. No information is to be taken as medical or other health advice pertaining to any specific health or medical condition. You agree that use of this information is at your own risk and hold Alex Muir harmless from any and all losses, liabilities, injuries, or damages resulting from any and all claims. And we're live. Welcome to the MindCep Podcast. This is your host, Alex Muir, helping you flex your mind, body, and soul. In today's episode 70, we're going to be speaking with David A. Specht. For David A. Specht, leadership has been more than a vocation, but a way of life. A veteran of the First Gulf War, David has led organizations of many types and sizes. For the bulk of his career, David has been the president of Specht Newspapers, Inc., a media and marketing company in Louisiana. In 2018, David and his wife, Tina, embarked on a health journey, losing a combined 180 pounds. This journey led to what David calls his impact passion for health coaching. Since then, their business, Specht Health Coaching, has directly impacted hundreds, while indirectly impacting thousands of people who seek a solution for their weight or for their health and their weight loss challenges. He has launched multiple podcasts, spoken before numerous crowds of business leaders, and written a leadership blog at davidaspecht.com for more than 10 years. Today, David wants to help other leaders achieve their purpose and realize their dreams. As co-host of the Two Perspectives podcast, David and his son Joshua bring generational views to the world of leadership to reach common ground. And please welcome David A. Specht to the podcast. David, pleasure having you on the MindCep Podcast today. I'm so happy that we got to connect and that Omar Madrano made that connection for us. So welcome.
Yes. I mean, world's about connections. Thank you so much, Alex. I mean, if we aren't connected by somebody, a lot of times we never become connected, period. Right. So yeah. I think it's our job as human beings to connect individuals together who are like-minded and have similar missions.
No, definitely. And one place that I wanted to start, which when I was reading your bio and your potential interview topics, was starting about like that combined weight loss for you and your wife, Tina. That's crazy. And like, what happened that caused maybe the weight gain, maybe some like mindset stuff. Mm-hmm. And then what did it take for you to be like, you know what, enough's enough. I want to make this change because, we don't have the same mobility. We can't do the same things at this higher weight. So what was the kind of the catalyst? Or start off by telling our listeners, like, how did it all start, like with the weight gain? And then what was the, what was needed to be the catalyst for like your weight loss journey?
Okay. Yeah. I'll try to keep it condensed or else we'll take our entire time talking about how I gained a bunch of weight. But really and truly, after I separated from the Air Force in 1992, my wife and I moved away from where we were. She moved away from family. I got into the newspaper industry in a town that I did not grow up in. We had no friends. And so we decided to eat our feelings. I mean, that was just kind of what it was, right? I started gaining a little weight here and there. And of course, when you gain a little weight, you
Yeah.
don't really think about it. And then over the course of a decade or more, all of a sudden my identity shifted from this guy that was, in pretty good shape in the Air Force to quote unquote the big guy, because I'm 6'5", and so carrying 250, 260, 270 pounds was not, didn't look that bad in the mirror, didn't look that bad in photos. And really and truly over the course of the next 20 years or more, it just kind of kept packing on. And because we were coping, the world that I live in, and being from the South especially, revolves around food, right? Every event has food as the centerpiece. And so we really got into being foodies. We really got into, if it was fried, it was for me. I was a non-vegetable eater. All of the things that you picture, Southern American male does, that's what I was doing. And what I would have like these scares when I hit 40. My doctor said, David, you got to lose weight. You need to get somewhere around 250 or else you're going to have health problems. And I'm like, okay, well, that was at the height of the Dr. Atkins craze. And so I lost, several pounds on Dr. Atkins, but then I started eating carbs again and it all came back on. And all the while my wife's trying to find, she's diabetic and she's trying to find the right thing for her. And so it was just this weird cycle of trial, error, failure, etc. And then something happened in 2018. In the beginning of 2018, my wife went to see her dad. She went to spend some time with their parents because her dad was having his second open heart surgery. And it was just really this wake-up call for her that, David, we really need to do something. And I was 325 pounds at the time. So just kind of get that picture in your mind, And we had been watching some friends of ours who had lost some weight. They live in California. They became these things that we'd never heard of called health coaches. And my wife, Tina, she said, David, I want to do what they do. And I said, babe, you've tried everything. We've got equipment that's going unused in the closet from crap you've bought. We've sent back more boxes of health food, health supplements, health this, health that, than I care to deal with. And she goes, no, I really believe this is going to work. And she kept saying, we have to do something. And in a moment of, I would say, the best kind of insanity that I've ever had, I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to join you on this for 30 days just to make sure that you stick to it. And yeah, I would love to say the rest is history. There's a lot there, but that was really the first yes. I gave my first yes for the complete wrong reason. But yeah, I didn't wake up and say, oh, I'm going to be healthy, Dave. I was just like, look, I'm tired of spending money on crap, and I was either doing it to prove that it was crap or that at least I would make her stick to it. I would make jokes about myself. Again, I'm the big guy. I'm fat and happy. I'm married now. I don't have anybody to impress. Why do I care? All the jokes that you make when you know that you're not at your best. And so I'll give you the quick story of that weight loss. So we got on with our health coach friends, and we both started at the same time. And we got placed into a mild fat burn, which was amazing. It just kind of got us over the hump. I won't say it was easy to get into fat burn, but once we got into fat burn, it really did make the difference because the cravings were down, et cetera. So here's the physical side of it. Then we had this community of support, a bunch of crazy people who were doing what we were doing. Because remember, again, from the South, and it may be nationwide, but I know the South, being healthy is countercultural.
Yeah.
Healthy nutrition is countercultural. So we didn't have a system of support physically, but we had this system of support virtually through a closed Facebook group. We Zoom before Zoom was a thing. We did all these things, and that kind of lifted us up. Plus, we were learning healthy habits. We were stacking real small healthy habits one on top of another. Maybe one was like, okay, let's work on getting you drinking 64 ounces of water a day. Now let's work on you drinking those 64 ounces without squirting Mio in them every time. It was just one of these small habits on top of it while we were losing weight. And I dropped that 120 pounds from April of 2018, I hit my goal weight in November of the same year. That's what fat
Oh,
burning is for me.
wow.
And so as I was shedding this amount of weight, and Tina was too, again, women shed it a little slower. Plus, she didn't have nearly as much weight to lose as I did, but people were noticing. And then all of a sudden, our coaches are like, look, these people better than we do. Why don't you coach them? And so that opened the door to what I call, like I said, my impact passion. Because when you find an answer for something and that answer is duplicatable, you see the world through a different set of eyes. Now you start seeing your friends, your family, coworkers, people on the street through a set of eyes of, I've got something that can help that individual if they'll just merely say yes. And so that really was the thing. Now, like you said, losing the weight's hard enough, but how is keeping it off? How does keeping it off? How did I do that now that we're, going on 4.5 years since reaching my goal weight? Well, number one, becoming a coach brings its own level of accountability, right? If you've got people looking up to you, you're going to think twice before eating that donut, right? It's just ingrained in you. Staying plugged into the community, learning the habits. And this is the biggest thing. And I want our listeners to really grab a hold of this. When you begin getting traction in one area of your life, start asking yourself the question, what's next? Because what you'll find is now that you know that you can, you begin to hope, you begin to dream, you begin to look at what's next for you. And what's next may be getting into the gym. What's next may be doing hiking or biking or running, right? What's next may be diving into personal development, becoming a better leader or becoming a better, that's the beauty of traction, is that when you can, all of a sudden the entire world opens up to you as possibilities instead of obstacles. And that for me is what has motivated me for the last 4.5 years, is that, okay, I've lost the weight. Now I'm not like running scared that I might gain it back, but now the what's next in my life, I've hiked, relatively big hills as a 50 something year old. I had hip surgery in 2019. I had a total hip replacement. 6 weeks after that, I walked/ran a 5K. I mean, things that would have never entered my mind at 325, sitting over here at 210, it's a completely different mindset. It's a completely different way of looking at the world. And so, I say it's simple, but the thing is, it's a daily decision.
Yeah.
And getting that traction each and every day and improving just a little bit each and every day, or building another habit each and every day, is really, that forward momentum is what keeps you going. If you stop, you will regress. But if you're constantly trying to work forward to the what's next, you really can not only sustain it, but move far beyond what you thought you could do.
Yeah, because then you start stretching your limits, because you're like, I've just proved to myself and to my wife proved to herself that we've made this, we were able to make this change. So what else can we make? What other changes can we make? Right? That'll send us in a positive
that you
direction.
can do hard things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I like how you talked about like the stacking the daily health habits, or we're winning those daily decisions against ourselves, because our mind's always gonna say no, I don't want you to do this, but we have to be the one in charge. We have to be the one steering the boat, as David Goggins says, right? Mm-hmm. He's like I control my mind doesn't control me. So with that, it's you're always in charge, and we always have every day each and every one of us have the opportunity to make that positive shift. Yeah.
Yes. And I tried to start the day with a win. I saw a video. I wish I could remember the guy's name. He was giving a commencement address, I think at the Air Force Academy. And he said, if you want to change the world, start by making your bed. And the video went viral. But what I learned from that was, it's not about the bed. It's about keeping a promise to yourself. It's about getting a win. I mean, think about it. To make your bed takes maybe a minute. And if you got a complicated bed, maybe, 2 minutes. But you have started the day completing a task that you promised yourself you would complete. Did the bed, is it going to affect how you sleep in the bed if it's made or unmade? It depends on your mindset. But But it's not about the making of the bed. It's about starting the day with a habit of a win. And when you start the day with a win, all of a sudden you've got a leg up on all the other garbage that's coming your way that day.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one other thing I wanted to mention was, right, you're in the leadership space, you're into health coaching.
Mhm.
How do you get people behind your vision when you're clear on your vision and your why, when you're leading those that aren't necessarily like you, but you know where you're going.
Oh, that's a quite a deep question. There's no real simple answer, but I can kind of give you a few concepts and examples that I think help. Number one, your amount of conviction in what you're doing. I think you have to, because sometimes people are just simply not confident enough to go where you're going. So they have to be able to borrow your confidence. Hey, look, I know you're not ready, but one of the phrases that I use is with potential clients is, look, I can't help you till you commit, but once you commit, I'm not going to let you fail.
Yeah,
That phrase in and of itself allows that person to borrow my confidence in them to be able to start the process. Number two, I have learned through a lot, especially having my sons working with me. And I went from the young guy in the office to the old guy in the office, and I don't know when it happened. And so I was the guy with all the new ideas. I was the guy with all the new perspective, with all the old guys in the office. And all of a sudden, somewhere in my mid 40s, it kind of flipped on me. And I had younger people that felt like, hey, Mr. Specht's out of touch, or Mr. Specht. And one of the things that I've had to do is be very intentional about listening without formulating a response,
yeah,
which is very difficult. You bring a lot of years of experience to a situation, but what I've learned is, if I will listen to somebody and ask questions like, tell me more about that, I learn so much more than the surface objection, the surface excuse. If I can get a little bit deeper and they feel heard and they feel understood, then I have the opportunity to say, based on what you have told me, I believe this can help you. And that works in any situation. It can be health, it can be in business. If somebody, I'm in one of my businesses, again, it's in the bio, I own some newspapers. Newspapers are, in a lot of ways, in a lot of people's minds, a relic. How do you bring on a younger person, or how do you convey the importance of a newspaper to a younger person? And the thing is, you got to drop the idea that it's a newspaper. You got to say it is a community news service.
right.
How we distribute that news is up for interpretation, but the fact is the news is the news. And so when I convey that to somebody like a 20 something potential reporter, now all of a sudden they get it. Oh, I'm not working for the newspaper, I'm covering the news. And then the channel by which we get that news distributed may be a whole plethora of different ways. And that really is a mindset shift for people in my industry, because I'm going to tell you that the old fogies in my industry are like, if it's not on ink and paper, it doesn't exist. Well, no, that's not the world we live in now, right?
Yeah, yeah.
If they could understand that you can increase the font size on an ebook and you can't do it on a printed book, they would be blown away. That's that to me, that is the key. It is not, you don't discount your experience. As somebody who's I just turned 54. I have 30 years plus of experience in leadership and in business and relationship building and in communication, all the things. But I can't let that be a prison of thought. I have to be open to the idea that, okay, the principles I've learned over these years are timeless, but their methods may be changed radically.
Right.
And I think for me, probably one of the biggest mind-opening lessons that I had, and it was forced out of necessity, was the way the entire world and communication and interaction changed during COVID.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you didn't have to go to the office anymore. In fact, you weren't supposed to go to the office anymore, right? So you had to adjust your communication strategies to include Zoom meetings, to include, instant messaging, to include, customer service through chat, all these things that were, oh, hell no, kind of moments prior. Now they're like the norm. And so for me, that told me, okay, I've got to keep my mind open to different ways of doing things, as long as it doesn't erode the principles by which we operate. And I think that's really what it takes to reach somebody who doesn't think like you. If they understand that you're willing to listen and attempt to understand, they don't even need you to understand, just attempt to understand. That levels the playing field for everybody, and we can move forward.
Love that. Attempt to understand, because we might not always fully understand, but as long as we make the effort to understand, people really respect that because they feel heard.
Yeah, it's I went through some training on this from Dave and Paul Blanchard, and intrinsic validation is universal. People want to be seen, heard, and understood. And if you can connect with somebody at that level, you can really help them.
No, definitely. And so let's talk about change. Like we talked about it a little bit, right? Like sometimes it takes a health scare for people to change. Sometimes it takes your business is not doing well at all and sales aren't there, and you're like, oh my god, like I gotta make a change, otherwise my business is toast or my relationship's toast. Change is not it's change can be difficult, but it is not impossible.
Right.
How do you help, let's say, some of your clients or maybe your family members when they're like, oh man, dad, like this, I'm trying to make this change or this mindset shift, but I'm just like I feel stuck. I want to make the change, but I'm afraid to make the change. What do you say to them? Like maybe some advice.
I think, number one, I believe that language is very powerful. And what I mean by that is how the words we choose to address a situation or even address ourselves have power. And I hear the term a lot of times, I struggle with this, I struggle with that. And I don't like the word struggle, because to me, struggle means I have no answer, right? I can't get out of this. I don't know what to do. I'm struggling to breathe, because I have asthma. I struggle, whatever. And when you use the term struggle, it comes very negative. It feels insurmountable. So one of the first things I try to help people do is change their language. Go from struggle to contend. Now, a contender may be facing the same obstacle that the struggler does, but the contender has tools that helps them overcome whatever their obstacle is. They may not overcome it today, though. Understand that's a reality. You can contend and not overcome. There are plenty contending boxers who get knocked out by the champ. I get that. But they have had the training and the tools to contend. So I think that's one area that I try to help people with, especially those that feel like they don't have any hope in their health because they've always been this way, right? The term always, I get how you've always been to this point, but that doesn't mean you can't be something else moving forward. And I believe that my story, the fact that I can show a before, and I don't even like calling it before and after. I call it a before and during photo because my life is still moving forward. My after hits, when I hit the grave, but I'll show them that and say, look, I've been there. I've been where you are. I know what tools will help get you to where you want to go, but it's going to take you contending for that it's a big enough thing that you care about, that you're willing to do what it takes to contend. We all want to play in the Super Bowl, but do we really want to work out in the gym, go to the football practices, up our game to the place where we can make an NFL team? No, we don't all do that, but we all can. I'm not saying we all make the NFL, but we all can do the things that the winners do. We just have to decide, okay, I'm not going to struggle with the gym. I'm going to contend in the gym. I'm not going to struggle with water. I'm going to contend to get my water. And so that, I think, is a big, big thing. The other thing is taking your power back with language. You know, when I decide that I'm going to eat a donut, or I'm going to eat a piece of cake, or I'm going to eat, pizza, that's not, whatever the quote unquote vice is that I deal with in food, and it can add area of life. I'm not saying I cheated. Cheated says that it knocks me down. It makes me believe that I'm less than. I use the term, I make a choice. I am choosing today. I'm taking my power back. Yeah. Is this moving me towards my goal? No, but you know what? That's my choice today. And I always use I didn't come up with this set of steps, but I use it all the time, and it's called stop, challenge, and choose. I stop when I am tempted in some way. Again, food's the easiest one, and for whatever reason, we can talk about food over sex or alcohol or drugs or whatever. But when I'm tempted by food, I can stop in that moment, challenge that decision, and then make a choice. And if I choose to eat it, I at least know I've gone through the process. Can I tell you though, 9 times out of 10, I choose not to eat it because my goals are bigger than my immediate need.
Yeah.
So those two things, contending and choosing, that puts the power back into the individual. And I think that's where we've lost a lot of it, is that we do tend to blame environment, blame her, our parents, everybody in my family's heavy, or everybody in my family's got heart disease, or everybody in my family's a diabetic. My son makes a little joke. He's a type 1 diabetic, and he talks about type 2s. He says, if type 2 diabetes runs in your family, nobody runs in your family.
Yeah, that's good.
And but you understand where I'm going with this, is that once we take our power back of making those decisions, even if we make the wrong decision, we're still in the driver's seat.
Yeah, no, and I love how you talk about choice of language. Choosing our language really dictates how we feel, right? Like
Right.
Upon like making the decisions that we make. Because if we're constantly belittling ourselves and criticizing ourselves, right, when we make the wrong decision, right, that's just counterproductive. That's just going to make us feel worse, right? As we're trying to, yeah.
One of the things that if you notice, and I've seen this, the term journey is very positive, right? I'm going on a journey.
Yeah.
The term diet is very restrictive.
Yeah.
But yet the steps are virtually the same, right?
Yeah.
So would you rather go on a diet or go on a health journey? Well, a health journey, obviously. So that to me is a huge difference maker as well, because we say diet all the time and it has this restrictive connotation to it. But if you say, look, I'm going to guide you on a health journey as your coach, I'm going to guide you on a journey that will lead to a better version of you. It's going to be rough. It's going to be tough in the beginning, but you're going to build habits that are going to serve you for a lifetime. Why wouldn't you want to be a part of that?
Yeah, no, for sure. And another thing I want to mention was we probably talked about it briefly, but how business is personal and vice versa. So yes. When you say business is personal and personal is business, what do you mean by that?
Well, let me put it this way, and this isn't fair. So let me this is a completely unfair statement, but it's still true. If you are overweight and in leadership, people think you're lazy. I'll just let that resonate for a minute. If you look up to your leadership and they're not showing up as the best version of themselves, your tendency to follow them, unless they got just a huge bank account or some huge, celebrity following, you're gonna always discount what they're saying.
Right.
And so I believe that if I am going to be successful in business, and I'm going to have people on my team that are in a culture of being successful, and again, success is defined many different ways, but I have to show up as the best version of myself. And an unhealthy version of me is a problem in the culture of success. Now, can I have a moment? Absolutely. We're human. Do I have to go back and apologize for my moments? Absolutely. I'm human. But the truth of the matter is, people will not follow somebody who's not walking the walk.
Yeah.
And you can't say, well, we're going to be an organization that's impacting the world or impacting our community or impacting the next customer that walks through the door if we're not constantly striving to improve our own selves.
Yeah.
You can't say you got to go to mandatory training tomorrow and I'm sitting out there on the golf course playing with my buddies. I mean, we've all got to be upping our game and skilling up each and every day, because there are people that are watching there. And it doesn't matter if it's your kids watching you, if it's your coworkers. You may not be quote unquote a manager or leader in your organization, but I guarantee you're leading somebody. John Maxwell says leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. If you're influencing somebody, guess what? You're leading them. And how are you leading them now? Are you showing up as the best version of yourself? Are you talking one talk and walking another talk? It doesn't add up. And that lack of authenticity, that lack of being real, it shows. People will sniff it out in a heartbeat.
Yeah. Because it's all about being genuine, authentic, and biggest thing that I've been changing from my personal language is I want to serve. I want to provide value on a high level, right? Before it was like I felt I had to, right? It was all about me. I just had to focus on me to build my best self, which I'm still doing. But what I've realized after I've been currently reading a book called The Go-Giver. Can't remember yes. It's a fantastic book. And I'm about
Rob Berg and John David Mann.
Yeah, that's right. And
amazing book.
And just the way that they frame those perspectives, those different principles, those different laws, right? Provide more in value than you take in payment. There's one, and then talks about influence, talks about a few other principles, right?
Yeah,
right.
They're great. And I read that book in 2010, maybe, and it still influences me to this day. And that's saying a lot, because I did a lot of things the wrong way from about 2010 to 2013. And I even got out of the leadership space for a period of about 5 years because I was doing it for the wrong reasons. I was doing it because I wanted to be puffed up. I was doing it because I wanted to be famous as in the leadership space. I mean, it was just all over the place. And my health journey changed my life and my perspective to be more servant focused. And I believe that again, I believe when you get traction in one area of life, you want to take on other areas. And when you take on other areas, you see the world in a different way and you want to serve. Serving is so much more rewarding than taking. Yeah. And a lot of people don't see it until they get in the middle of it.
Yeah, no, for sure. And like, I've been working on those principles myself, just to test them out. And the feeling that you get is such a high, such a great feeling. And like, for example, all I did was like, I brought like donuts to the office, and then the one day I brought popcorn to the office, right? Just snacks, right? But it's such a small act of kindness, but people get behind that, right?
I did something just to kind of give you a little example of the same principle. And one of the things I'll say is it doesn't have to be huge. A small thing to you is a huge thing to somebody else.
Yeah.
I was on a podcast and the guy was making reference to how he liked my podcast guest sheet. Well, I did graphic design early on in my career. I said, I banged that out in like 20 minutes. He goes, wow, that's cool. And so after I got off the show, I just fired up, Adobe InDesign. I went and found some of his artwork. I went to his LinkedIn and I created him a podcast one sheet in about 15 minutes, exported it as a PDF, and I texted it to him.
Yeah.
He was so blown away by it.
Yeah.
It was a small thing to me, but a huge thing to him. And I think if we get in that mindset as humans, we can make the world a much better place pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And we got just a few minutes there left, David. And let's let's end it there for today. But I really enjoyed our podcast, and for our future podcast, I want to delve more deep into your book.
Okay.
Old Dogs, New Tricks, because it really ties into a lot of things that we've talked about today. And how can our listeners find you, and what platforms are you most active on?
Okay, well, you can find all of my links to everything I do at davidaspecht.com. You can go to, if you would like to explore perhaps my wife and I being your health coach, go to spechthealth.com, and that's SPECHT health.com. There's a free health assessment you can take on there to see if what we do will fit with you. But on davidaspecht.com, you can click on Old Dogs, New Tricks. You'll see what the book's about. I have a very special offer for those who use that link on my website, that I'll give you, if you purchase the book, I'll give you a 12 video lesson course called Step Into Purpose. We all are told to find our purpose, but what do we do after that? Well, this course will take you through the steps necessary to help you fully step into your purpose. It's worth $300. We charge $300 to Joe off the street for it. It's yours absolutely free for purchasing the book on Amazon. And really and truly, those are the best ways to reach me. Follow me on Instagram. I've got a YouTube channel. You can friend me on Facebook. I'm not to 5,000 friends yet. I go live Monday through Friday every morning to give just a little bit of value. I put the podcast out there. My newest podcast is Keep This in Mind, where I do video interviews with people like you, Alex, to talk about the thing between our ears and where everything starts and ends there.
Yeah.
And it's really, I'm all over the place. All you got to do is look up David A. Specht, and I'll guarantee you'll find me. Right on.
And I would love to be on your show, or doing a Facebook Live with it. I'd be a pleasure to join you on that.
We'll get you in the rotation really quick.
Right on. Well, appreciate your time today, David. It was a pleasure having you on the MindCep Podcast.
Thanks, Alex.
Right on. Have a good one.
Take care.
You too. I hope you all enjoyed that special guest series episode brought to you by podcastguest.com and radioguest.com. If you'd like to reach out to me, get to know me or my guests, you can do so at my blog. That's alexandermuir.com. That's ALEX, Amazon Mike, UIR.com. And then you go under my blog section, and it has all my recent podcast episodes and prior episodes with my guests. And if you'd like to reach out to me on another platform, I'm also on Instagram, Facebook. You can DM me on Facebook or on Instagram, and you can leave a short review if you enjoy the episodes. Leave 5 stars, rate, review, and comment on Apple Podcasts, Spotify Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts. And I appreciate you all. Thank you all for listening, and see y'all next time.